The first few weeks of every month always set the tone. July is already making a pretty strong first impression. There's newcomers, surprises, triple A's, plenty to get excited about. Hello folks, this is Mobile. Today we're checking out over 20 new mobile games for Android and iOS. Alright, so first of all, sitting in at number 1 we've got Crime Scene Evidence Collector. Which, I want to be honest, going into it, I expected another sort of low-effort sim game when I opened it. Instead, it kind of ended up being pretty good, like very satisfying. I mean, there's just something about walking into a crime scene, checking every last piece of evidence, scrubbing away the mess, and restoring everything that sort of taps into the same part of the brain that loves games such as power washing and cleaning games. It's a pretty simple concept, but the attention to detail gameplay creates that just one more mission feeling surprisingly fast. If you enjoy sim games that turn ordinary jobs into oddly addictive experiences, this is it. Coming up behind that, we've got this new game called Los. I would say low-key just a kind of horror game that reminds you why atmosphere will always beat jump scares. Like, the moment you start in this mainer setting thing, you get that something feels wrong, not because anything is chasing you, but just because the house itself is made in the right way. I'm gonna be honest, I love horror games that they actually make you curious before they make you scared, and Los absolutely does that. Like, you're not just escaping a haunted house or something, you're trying to piece together this 200-year-old mystery. It's the kind of game that actually makes you stop for a second, look around, and actually think about what you want to do next. This is gonna take up to another 3 months, sometimes that cuts down to a month. We've seen that happen before. If you missed it before, Dincom is officially targeting Android and iOS, and it's bringing one of the best indie life sim games of just pretty much the last few years to mobile audiences. So it's a survival sim game that blends farming, mining, crafting, fishing, and town building, all of that with survival mechanics inside an open world as well. In fact, the mobile version includes optimized controls, handheld friendly menus, and both local and online co-op, so you can build your little outback paradise with friends as well. So look, if you missed it on PC, this is easily one of the most charming life sim games you can actually pick up for free soon.
My dear little vampire.
Here's good news and also bad news. So Moonlight Peaks is available now on Android, and if you missed it before, it actually feels like Stardew Valley wandered into a Tim Burton movie, and for both of those reasons, it works very well. So it's a paid game, it's a premium paid game on Android right now for $25, and for that reason, we don't really recommend it, obviously. But the story in the game itself is quite neat, where instead of saving this normal type of farm, you're a vampire trying to leave Dracula's legacy behind by growing crops, making friends, and even finding love in a town just full of witch, werewolves, and other sorts of neighbors. It's a little spooky, but has like a ton of personality as well. If you enjoy, let's say, life sim games but want something with a gothic twist, this one's the only game that I know of. Down to number 5, we've got Gravity Override. Not a bad game, I would have to be honest. It's actually a surprisingly solid sort of downhill biking game that keeps things pretty simple and lets the writing do the talking. You've just got a large open map to explore, some really good realistic physics, first-person support, and plenty of trails whether you're chasing speed or pulling off tricks, depending on how you feel. And it doesn't bury you on the, complicated and overwhelming systems, and I would say that's part of the charm. So if you miss, old school mobile sport games where it's all about good gameplay, this one's actually worth the ride.
Show up in your game.
In Sakuman, every player begins with their own.
Number 6, we've got the game Sakuman. I think it's a sort of a throwback to the days when collecting little monsters was at least like half the fun. So it's a casual RPG from a pretty small indie developer that's actually been in the making for a good few years, and it is made with a lot of heart. So the big hook is that real Sakuman figures can be scanned into the game and become your companions. But even without them, of course, there's a cozy little online world to roam, decorate, and hang out with other friends as well. The game's less about battles and more about collecting and slowly building your own little space to live in. If you are into creature collecting games that make you feel relaxed, this one's actually got all the vibes.
intense.
Going down to number 7, we've got Beat Hazard Arcade, and it's one of those games that doesn't get old. It's, you could say, a timeless game because the soundtrack is the gameplay. It's a musical game and a bullet hell where every song obviously creates a different battle, enemy waves coming at you, and weapon powers that all react to the beat itself. It's been a fan favorite for years on PC and consoles as well, and the mobile version, for those of you who missed it, captures the same addictive formula surprisingly well, and it works with the controller too. So look, if you've never played it before, just imagine a twin-stick shooter where your favorite playlist becomes a level. Like, it's almost unlike any other game you played on mobile. Now here's the thing, guys. iBird is one of those simple little indie games that sort of comes around copying other games, but it also ends up topping them. It's a platform action game where, like, you're controlling a flying pip with this full 60-degree control, and every level encourages you to explore instead of just, rushing to the finish line. You get to pick up hidden objects, do time challenges and get collectibles that later on will open extra stages. It's a kind of casual game that's easy to enjoy for like 5 minutes, then like you're suddenly chasing a better run like half an hour in. Down to number 9, we've got Gartic Phone. First of all, it's finally on mobile, and it might actually be one of the funniest party games you can play with your friends. You start with a simple little sentence, someone draws it, the next person guesses what it is, and before long, that whole original idea turned into some complete nonsense. So yeah, half the fun just watching everything falling apart in the replay, and it doesn't even matter if you're terrible at drawing. In fact, that usually makes it even better. This is pure, you could say, multiplayer chaos, and one of those games that creates memories every single session. Coming up at number 10, we've got Tiny the Vines. So this is a strategy idle game, but it actually mixes survivor style action with the old idle progression. But its biggest strength still is how approachable basically everything feels. Where instead of overwhelming you with just systems, it actually lets you build what you like, one run at a time, while experimenting with different skills, classes, and then synergies eventually. The art does give it a nice look that actually makes it stand out, but there's also enough strategy underneath to keep things very interesting. Very good game. It's available on Android and iOS. It's the kind that's easy to jump into for 5 minutes and somehow turns into an hour because you're always chasing for something more. So with that being said, Soko is one of those little indie puzzle games that's just, I would say it's actually made for the personality that these developers had to offer. I guess what I'm trying to say is that on the surface it's like a Sokoban style puzzle game, but the nightclub setting it's made in, the theme and the characters and all the little hidden secrets do give it a ton of charm that's pretty hard to fake actually. The puzzles gradually become more clever without even feeling unfair, and the soundtrack also sort of ties the whole vibe together. It's a pretty weird game and got a lot of interesting characters to meet from start to finish.
The tactical landscape is shifting.
Coming in at number 13, we have Ares, the Iron Vanguard. And well, you might remember going by the name Ares Rise of Guardian. Well, here's the thing, you will now be able to have its English version out for a run. It's free, no need to pre-register nothing, just download it in its open beta. Just keep in mind, it's still very much in that evolving stage, while still though plays like a full-on AAA. It's very much trying to hit that console-level mobile space where timing and combos matter instead of just autoplay spam. It is a little rough around the edges, of course, since it's beta, but the ambition is huge. Down to number 14, we've got a dinosaur sim game. It's called Mesozoic Dawn, that actually sort of understands survival Jurassic fantasy. First of all, this isn't the kind of game where you're like just running around as a dinosaur. It's about surviving like one as well. Really, literally. You start pretty small, pretty fragile, basically everyone's lunch, then little by little grow through hunting, nesting, breeding, and eventually evolving your own bloodline. The survival systems go way deeper than expected here. There's things like injuries, climates, territory, and even AI dinosaur companions you need to survive. Suffice it to say, if you wanted a proper prehistoric survival game, this one's actually a pretty neat pick. At number 14, we've got Tower of Grey, which is, I would say, one of the strongest art styles on the list and in this specific genre. And I do emphasize that because it's literally one of the best we have seen in years. So first of all, two things about this game. You will need a Japanese VPN, even though it does support English, so I don't even know what the reason is for that. And it's not following the usual grind, you see. It's a mix of idle progression, lots of base building, real-time fights, and, well, RPG mechanics that give you plenty to work toward without demanding, like, constant attention that most games require. So look, if you're into post-apocalyptic worlds and just a chunky progression loop, this is definitely one to try. Number 15, we've got Fortune Mill, which sort of looks quite simple at first, then like a minute later it reveals how clever it really was. What starts as just scratching tickets and throwing darts turns into this neatly deep incremental game where like every room feeds into the next one through synergies and just a ton of upgrades. Like you're constantly unlocking new mechanics, getting rid of the old ones and just watch the whole madness unfold. It's a pretty weird game, a little funny, got a lot of personality, and honestly feels more like a puzzle game than your, say, average idle type of game. Tiny Cat Assembles is probably exactly the kind of game you install because the cats look cute, then an hour later you're still playing because it's just addictive. First of all, it mixes survival style action with these quick little neat merge mechanics, and you're constantly evolving your army while the whole screen fills and empties with just a little bit of attention. And yet the humor never takes itself seriously, but there's enough strategy with buffs, unit combinations, and bosses to keep things interesting. It's one of those weird little mobile games that knows exactly what it actually wants to be. Townsman is one of those games that is just built to instantly hit long-time players with a rush of nostalgia. In fact, back when city building games were all about building and thriving kingdoms instead of waiting for timers, Townsman was like one of the best. Now it's finally back as a fully premium release with upgraded graphics, better controls, and no free-to-play nonsense as well. The fact that it's already past 1.5 million wishlists, I mean, come on, it says a lot. Say, if you've been craving an old-school medieval city building game like Caesar, this comeback is definitely worth keeping an eye on. Going down to number 19, we've got Grand Torque. It's one of those driving games that to begin with immediately catches your eyes with the visuals. Then a little later down the line, you will actually notice that there's actually a surprisingly deep customization to actually have fun with as well. Like you've got a huge open world here, really good realistic physics, plenty of tuning options, and just a bunch of body kits, paint jobs, and additions to build your ride the way you like. It's still early days of course, but if you're into games that let you drive, drift, and customize without feeling too arcadey, this one's definitely worth checking out. It's 1.5 gigabytes in total. Sitting on the number 20, we've got one of the oldest games to have been in development. It's the game Titanite. And if the name sounds familiar, that's because it was out actually through multiple betas and alphas throughout the past 10 months, and to our good luck, it's finally out on Android with the iOS version due out on July 9. So you're good. See, Titanite in fact looks like it's sort of mixing the game Rust, the game Once Human also, and mech combat into just one big survival package. It's not just a shooter is what I'm saying. You're out there fighting in PvP zones for loot, extract before losing all of it, and return to a safe base to build, upgrade, and then tame some mechs that will do the fighting for you. Definitely an ambitious project, especially if the gunplay and survival mechanics end up delivering. If you're in the US or generally can't play the game right now because of locked region, well, you gotta wait until July 9. And last but not least, number 21, we've got Gentleman Business Strategy. So I wouldn't say it is your typical game, and mainly because instead of running just a little shop or something, you're there for the empire building, territory business. So you're like constantly trying to stay one step ahead of your rivals. It's basically a tycoon game mixed with strategy, a little bit of Godfather stuff, Mafia stuff, where you're working with workers, logistics, upgrades, and even turf wars at the same time. Pretty good game. Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. I'll see you again tomorrow.